Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners, just like you.
That was beautiful.
I've been listening to a lot of the music from Hamilton. And I'm just like, I just want to do everything like this and really fast. And
Yeah, of course.
Have you guys watched it yet?
No.
Oh, you need to. It's so good. It really is. I wanted to not like it so that I could be like, it's not that good.
Sure, yeah.
It really is that good.
Sure. I think I maybe almost have the opposite worry where I'm ready to like it, but now I worry that
It's not going to live up to the hype.
But like, what if I don't like it?
I'd be really surprised if you don't.
And
like
not
it.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, not like I'm going in like, but it's like, what if I go in and it's just, I just find out that like, I just don't like what people like.
I think that I think that you will. I'd be very surprised if you didn't like it.
All right.
We got a review.
Hey.
5-star review. It's number 80
That's right.
on Breaker, which I'm not even sure what that is.
Breakers.
I hardly know her.
Another. Yeah.
It's another review from.
That's where I get my podcasts on Breaker.
Na 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 na. Hey, carry me away. Breaker High.
Oh my God. Wow.
Into the wave to comfort me.
Here's the
carries
thing.
me across the sea.
I didn't really watch Breaker High. I thought it looked stupid.
I mean, it was, but it was fun.
Crazy reference.
The review goes on to say Dr. DC deserves 5-star. I demand a rating system. I think they probably didn't have a star rating.
Yeah, Breaker
system.
doesn't, I think, have a rating system. So this review not only gives us 5 stars, but also puts the entire podcatcher on blast.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, keep them coming. We're approaching 90 reviews.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's 10.
It's happening.
It's all happening.
Okay.
It's from the movie with the kid who travels with a band and there's the journalist.
What?
The Cameron Crowe movie or whatever. The one where he it was about him being like a music journalist and traveling with a band in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
It's a very popular movie. Anyways,
Almost Famous?
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
It's the like groupie girl was like, it's all happening.
Yeah, okay.
I only deal in like third tier quotes from like second tier movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think people that like Almost Famous would take umbrage with the idea that it's a second tier movie. But
Yeah. It's no Titanic.
oh, let me draw you.
Oh my God. Like one of your French girls. We've got some news. 170-minute cut of Batman Forever reportedly exists.
Okay, 170 minutes. That's a lot. That's almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's an almost. But is this like an actual like watchable cut? 'Cause
Yeah.
you know those like assembly cuts.
No.
they
This
actually
is like a
edited it
much
down.
darker, like our director's original cut.
But Joel Schumacher was always the director. It wasn't
know.
like a Snyder cut situation.
I know. No, because he went to the thing and they were like, we need to make fucking toys out of this. Like,
But I thought his thing was about it being more fun anyway.
apparently it's a much darker version.
Interesting. I mean, I'm morbidly curious about
Right?
that. Because that's my big complaint with Batman Forever over Batman and Robin is that it doesn't really know what it is. That the script feels dark, but the movie skews light. And I don't.
Yeah.
And that's my big complaint with that one. Interesting. So like a more kind of Burton-y, a more sort of psychological, almost 3 hour. I mean, that's the other thing is like 3 hours of Batman Forever. Although maybe that gives you more time to get to know Dick Grayson and stuff like that instead of him just doing the like laundry kung fu.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't.
So is it coming to HBO Max? Is HBO just digging up all the old directors?
Well, it's a thing that's coming up. I don't know if like someone posted about it and now it's like it's in the zeitgeist. I don't know. Like they probably need some push for it, but
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, if that's a real thing, I'm certainly curious about it.
well, it's
I wouldn't say no.
It's actually just 70-minute like mini documentary about how he slept with 20,000 people.
I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers.
That's right. Literally. There's no foreplay if you're sleeping with that many people.
Yeah, no.
Next piece of news. Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Red coming to digital and print.
This is another Harley graphic novel?
Yeah.
This isn't just a collection of like Harley greatest hits. This is like its own story.
So it's described as, for those who are following Harley Quinn news and an avid Quinnette like myself, this is the article, not me.
Okay, I was gonna say.
There has been news about a 14-part digital series featuring Harley. The series will feature many creators, including one of her creators, Paul Dini himself. The series is published in black and white, as the title implies, with the addition of some red coloring. The red will be unique to each story.
So almost like a Sin City sort of vibe to it.
Would be my guess, yeah.
Yeah, right on. Cool.
So,
listen, I think it's time that the people that get like shitty or uppity about it just get on board with the fact that, like, listen, Harley is the fourth pillar, man.
Yeah.
There's some big like name characters at DC, and Harley, though she hasn't been around for like the crazy number of decades of the other ones, Harley is it. Like Harley's right up there. So yeah, get on board. Have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. And final piece of news, Cyborg actor calls out Justice League director for abusive, unprofessional behavior on set.
Yes. And by that, we're talking about
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon.
Who I've heard is a fucking dick anyway. So
yeah, I mean, the thing with this specific thing is I haven't really found particular specific allegations of things.
So there's a really
but
good...
I think it's just, I mean, let's put it this way. The other stuff on other things that has come out about Joss Whedon does not make me disbelieve this.
There's a great...
I don't really know specifically what this is referring to in terms of working on Justice League, other than the fact that like everyone signed up to do this very big epic thing, certainly for Ray Fisher.
Yeah.
A very sort of like complex, emotional, psychological character, and then the movie that came out was like not that.
No.
So I mean, there's probably general frustration there anyway, but it wouldn't surprise me based on what we already know of Joss Whedon that, working on the set might not have been great. We've seen his what was it, his Batgirl treatment,
the Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, his Wonder Woman.
I think might be a Batgirl one too.
I thought there was a Batgirl one.
There might be a Batgirl one too, but they're both like
they're both not great.
No. Now, I mean, I can say a lot from what I've heard, but I go to the source, which is the Kevin Smith's Fat Man Beyond podcast. They go in a little bit more depth because he's got some personal experience and some things that he had heard. But basically, what it sounded like is it was like a very like inappropriate set, and a lot of the things that Joss wanted to include in it. It was like the part where like the Flash like lands on top of Wonder Woman.
That was clearly not a Snyder shot.
It's not. And apparently Gal Gadot refused to do that, so that's actually a stunt double.
Really?
Yeah. And saying a lot about Josh, he was just like, well, fuck you. Like, I'm just going to get a double to do it. Because he thinks it's so important to have that scene in there.
Yeah.
But from what it sounds like, he just treated the entire cast like dog shit. Like, basically, like, and Jeff Johns and a bunch of other people were basically just supporting him.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly Ray Fisher's thing, he talks about enabling and stuff like that. And I mean, I think especially at the point at which they were bringing in Joss Whedon and trying to like get the thing done, but also basically shoot a brand new movie.
Well,
I can imagine they were just like maybe not stepping in to stop things because they were just like, nope, we need a movie out. And at any cost.
I think that also apparently Joss was like shitting all over Zack Snyder's stuff. And that may have been.
I mean, they clearly have different approaches, and that's not even to say that one or the other is right or wrong. But like, again, from what we know of Joss Whedon, wouldn't surprise me.
It makes it pretty easy too when you've been the director for Avengers movies. And then you come from Marvel to DC, where people have been kind of shitting on DC for the way they've been handling things. Puts you in a position where if you're an already egotistical person, coming in and thinking like, everybody shut the fuck up because I'm going to save the world.
Yeah.
There's a really good, if you look up like Jonah Ray, Joss Whedon, he has a very funny story about Joss Whedon being a complete dog shit person.
Right.
Where like Jonah Ray was like DJing at some party and Joss came in with like a bunch of women and were just like, fucking do what I tell you. Like, so it sounds like it sounds like he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I mean, God, well, Ray Fisher also, he like posted the clip from Comic-Con where he was like, Joss is a great guy and he's coming in to finish our movie, and he was like, I retract this, and like, but like even at the time, you know, like when they were doing the thing, they were like, yep, it's gonna turn out great. You could always see like Momoa's eyes like on the floor. There's like, you could like, no one, they were like, we can't shit talk it because it's the movie we're in and the studio and our contracts and stuff like that. But you could tell all of them were like, does this have to come out?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the thing is, give a huge credit to this actor because
yeah,
this was his very first movie he ever made.
Yeah, he's like
he's a complete unnamed, like unknown actor.
He was like right out of like theater school or right off Broadway or something like that. He did was the third season of True Detective or something like after that. He's done some stuff after that,
but this isn't.
He was like a stage actor.
Yeah,
that sort of.
He all he has is things to lose from doing this. Like it's one thing with like John Boyega, who like spoke out for Black Lives Matter in like England and was basically like, I don't care if I lose my job.
Yeah,
it's John Boyega. He's in Star Wars. He's not going to lose his job. I think with this guy, I mean, there's a like speaking out against like one of the huge like this like WB like this Universal like, you know what I mean? Like he's really putting himself in a vulnerable position against like a huge director.
And he's been a pretty vocal supporter of Snyder
without it, the beginning,
for the whole time. Yeah, I mean. You know, I'm sure we'll learn more of the details, and I'm sure they'll be disheartening. But, you know, like...
Regardless, coming into this, no one's surprised that Joss Whedon's an asshole.
Not surprised at all.
And I think that I think that even if he ends up being scot-free out of this, he's not scot-free because he's a fucking prick. So I have no problem hating him on this. And I really loved him before a lot of this. Like,
well, I mean, like so many things until you know about it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or confront it.
Yeah.
You know.
So let's talk about this week's theme.
That's right.
Somewhere between Tom Hanks and Hitler, talking about medieval. Joss Whedon. Medieval. Just sort of midway.
What a fucking journey. Good God.
Speaking of medieval,
I do like the idea of Tom Hanks as like the paragon of good kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do kind of like that.
I bounced between my head between Hitler and Trump. I wasn't sure,
and
but
you go down in like little increments, like Tom Hanks. You go Colin Hanks. Chet
Hanks. You get the Hanks, and then you get then it moves
all
on.
The Hanks, and then you.
Then like Jesus, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, he's in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere after that, after Hanks. No.
Yes, we're talking about the Middle Ages, the medieval times of the DC universe.
Well, medieval. I mean, it comes up, but the question about what Middle Ages and medieval is.
Yes, well, yeah, I'm using them slightly interchangeably, and I probably shouldn't. But I'm not surprised that I'm a little bit surprised that you just throw around. Oh,
that.
Don't worry, I've got facts. For this
I'm very excited.
Anyway.
I'm excited for that. Well, let's get into the questions.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's go to Facebook.
Go do the face and the book. Go do the Facebook.
One of the things I really love about this specific theme is that a lot of the questions are very long, more than any like of the other ones I've seen. I was just like, there's a lot of like,
there's a lot of questions with setup.
Yes, which I love. So the first of those comes from We've Only Just Done. Who asks, do you remember Arak? Is that
or Arak?
Arak?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with comics is they're never said out loud. This is the Ra's al Ghul thing all over again.
This is my son Eric and his clone Arak.
Arak, yeah.
Son of Thunder. I remember reading Who's Who and a couple issues and thinking it was a cool concept. Basically, First Nations warrior in medieval Europe. They didn't make him speak broken English or other common racist tropes with First Nations people, and he had a really cool look. I don't know how much it holds up. Just curious if you've come across him.
Yeah, this is sort of one of those like...
My son's also name is Arak.
Yeah, this is one of those sort of like deeper, more obscure corners of DC. I've encountered that character a couple of times, but I would be lying if I said that this was like a thing I read a ton of or whatever. So in terms of it like holding up, I'm not sure I can 100% speak to that. I mean, he's right in that it wasn't leaning on those like sort of old racist, like the linguistic things they would put into old comics, you know, like in the 40s, where like make the Asian swap the R's with the L's. Yeah. Like it's not doing any of that kind of stuff or saying like, what, you know, whatever the sort of, First Nations equivalent of that is. So that is true.
Yeah.
I don't know story-wise if they actually hold up or not. That is worth checking out. But really cool concept. So if I'm remembering correctly, he is Eric, son of Thunder, is literally the son of a thunder god who goes by the name Hino, I think, who's meant to be the thunder god of his particular First Nation.
Yeah.
I think the way he ends up in Europe, though, is that Vikings are like raiding North America, and he fights a bunch of Vikings, and there's some sort of kinship with like the idea of like people that like believe in / follow Thor, and then this guy who is this like son of a thunder god, and so he sort of joins the Vikings, becomes like one of them, and then he ends up in Europe.
Okay.
But it's that he's sort of brought from North America to Europe. If I'm remembering correctly, that's the sort of general setup of Eric, Son of Thunder. I mean, there are limited appearances of this character. I actually don't know if they're available digitally, but I think it's worth investigating because, as mentioned, it wasn't outright racist. I'm sure it's racist in its own way, but it wasn't like going out to be racist, which is the lowest possible bar for this thing to sail over. But I do like the idea. You know me. If you've been listening to this show, I love anything where it's like, let's bring in other spiritualities, pantheons, things like that. So that idea of like, the Vikings, you know, they've got this thing with like Thor, but then they meet someone sort of empowered and descended from a different thunder god, a different pantheon, these sort of blending, you know, the sort of cross-cultural thing of like, well, we can relate to that. We have a thunder god. I kind of like that. It's sort of like a neat pitch. I'm sort of surprised it doesn't happen more. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, well, how come Poseidon doesn't meet other sea gods as much? Or like, you know, like how come we know that Ra and Apollo are both out there. They don't seem to interact too much. You know, they're the gods of different suns, but like Ra, Apollo, Quetzalcoatl, like all these sun gods, Ra, all of them should interact at some point. So there's something I kind of like about Eric, Son of Thunder that way. That's sort of interesting.
I wasn't trying to be racist.
Wow.
How would you sing that song?
Oh no. Oh no.
Right, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
You know, it may be gray skies, morning and night. There's one way you can tell what time of day it is. The scream of a donkey. That's right. Next question comes from Braydon.
Good Lord.
You know, just trying to keep things fresh.
Oh, and how fresh it is.
What were immortals like Vandal Savage, Ra's al Ghul, Cersei, etc. up to during the Middle Ages?
Right. There's a lot of characters that are either immortal or they've just been alive for a very long time.
Not that they were around from the beginning of time necessarily,
Yeah.
because that's always a big thing, right? Like you could be immortal, but you could also if you're a vampire, you could get turned in like 1995
Exactly.
and then live forever.
Well, to knock one off this list right away, that's sort of the
Ra's
case
al
with
Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. I think most general estimates or mentions of Ra's al Ghul's age put him at about 600-ish years old.
Yeah.
Which would put him in the 1400s, like maybe 1400s and so we're talking the end kind of the Middle Ages. We're moving into the Renaissance. We're just the tail end there, which means that what we think of as like the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, medieval times, like knights, swords, King Arthur, stuff like that. That was like almost a full 1,000 years before that. So Ra's al Ghul is doing nothing during this time
because he's not even cum and balls.
You really gotta stop describing it that way.
What? Everything's pre or post cum and balls.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually celebrate instead of celebrating your birthday, you celebrate the day you were liberated from your father's balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've been watching Parks and Rec lately. And I love one of my favorite sort of like offhand jokes is when Ron's just like, I don't celebrate birthdays. It's a holiday developed by Hallmark.
Yeah. I like
it's a great, good joke. Yeah.
So yeah, Ra's al Ghul actually not doing anything during that time. Vandal Savage, clearly alive for quite a long time.
Well, like Egyptian time, right?
No, even longer. He's from caveman days.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Vandal Savage.
I mean, I don't think that was his caveman days name, but
no, his cave. I can tell you his caveman name. It's
really?
It's Vandar Adge.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think. I mean, again, different continuities sort of fudge numbers a bit, but I think generally we're talking like 80,000 years.
Wow.
Vandal Savage has been alive for a very, very long time. Vandal Savage,
same time with the dinosaurs and stuff. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Before the flood.
Yeah. Humans and dinosaurs hanging out together. Yeah.
We also know that Vandal Savage has throughout history either been a key figure in history or been right beside / behind manipulating a key figure. There are comics that have basically said that he was, Genghis Khan, or that he was whatever. It's strongly implied in the Demon Knight series in the New 52. I'm pretty sure it's strongly implied that he was Genghis Khan, or that he was at least leading the sort of like goth army that took down Rome, and that sort of thing. So Vandal Savage is definitely around in that. And actually that series, the Demon Knights, which was part of the New 52, is sort of right in that sort of Dark Ages period, right? That like what we would consider to be medieval times when we're thinking about knights and squires and that sort of stuff. And he is sort of roving about in that time. When we catch him in that, he's sort of between being conquerors. Because he's been alive for so long that he's like, in some lifetimes, he's like, I'm going to be a conqueror. Sometimes he devotes himself to art. Sometimes he devotes himself to science. He literally has all the time in the world to take on new things.
Yeah.
We sort of catch him between fits of conquering in that series. So yeah, during that time, I guess you could say he's not doing that.
Circe.
So Circe is tied to the Olympian gods and Greek myth.
Yeah.
So she is definitely still around. As to what she's specifically doing, I'm not exactly sure, but I imagine that generally she's mostly contained to the Aegean still. I can't think of a comic where someone has just randomly chanced upon Circe elsewhere in Africa, in Europe, in North America. I think we're still in the days where maybe the Olympian gods are still deriving a decent amount of power from belief, although we're well into the Christianization of Greece. But yeah, I would imagine that she's hanging out somewhere around, whatever island she's meant to be on. Crete? I can't remember what island she's meant to be on, or her own island.
I've seen Greece. It's pretty Christian. I don't know. Good Christian fun.
Oh no.
Summer loving, having so fast.
Oh. Well, they do have Teen Angel in that, yeah.
Teen Angel.
I almost sang Earth Angel.
I know. That's why I think that's what popped in my head.
Earth Angel, will you be mine?
What's the Go Back to High School song? There's a really great SNL skit about it.
I'm not sure.
Where there's where it's like that guy singing to like the girl about like going back to high school, and suddenly the guy who's singing to her, like this kid walks in, and it's just like, Dad, you need to stop fucking singing to my friends, you creep. And he's like, no, this is my career now. And it's just like, this is so creepy. Like you're singing to like teenage girls. Like it's a really funny sketch.
That is pretty funny.
All right, let's go to the next question.
All right, let's do it.
Speaking of cavemen, this is everyone's favorite caveman comic book podcast, Adam Talking Superman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who asks, who was Hawkman's incarnation in this era? And is it Silent Knight? And who was he a relative to? Is it Superman?
I do like when I get the ones where it's like, we all know what the answer to this is, but let's make sure that we touch on all of it.
And we say it like a question, so...
So, yes, there's a character called Silent Knight who, if I'm remembering correctly, when they were first introduced, was not designed to be a past life of Carter Hall.
Okay.
But has since been retconned to have been so. So this character, his name is Brian Kent, and he finds this like armor and goes after these people that were like either attacking his village or his family or something, and he like kills them all without saying a word. And then someone says like, "What's your name?" And he doesn't say anything. He starts being called the Silent Knight. And so that character now, like I said, has been retconned to be a past life of Carter Hall, Hawkman. I can't remember what the comic is, but there is a comic where they kind of imply that Jonathan Kent, Superman's adoptive father, may be a descendant of Brian Kent, the Silent Knight.
Okay.
Now, you can take that however you will. Hawkman and Hawkwoman have had kids at various times. I mean, Hector Hall, their kid who became Silver Scarab and Dr. Fate, he had the reincarnating thing going on.
Yeah.
But if Brian Kent is that way, then is it that does the reincarnating thing no longer apply? Or does it not always apply to their kids? Or does it dilute over generations? You know, like, it's a fun little thing to make a connection, but it's certainly not like, and by the way, Jonathan Kent has Hawk powers. Like there's nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing that crude. It's a little bit more nuanced. I don't know that we need an answer to those questions, but it definitely gets implied at some point. Now, all of that, though, I believe was pre-Flashpoint. I think we may see Silent Knight in those panels in Hawkman where all of his past lives sort of come out and fight alongside him. Because now we've seen like the Kryptonian past life and the like all these other ones too. Pretty sure we see Silent Knight in there because it's just sort of accepted that that's part of the deal now. But I don't know. I don't know if since Flashpoint they've dealt with the Kent thing. I think that might have just been like a one-off sort of thing. And then they were like, oh, let's leave this. So if you want to, I think there's enough comic evidence that you can say Superman related to Silent Knight.
Well, all right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, not by blood, but you know.
It's family. Family.
It's all family.
I don't have friends.
I have family. All right, let's go to the next question.
Let's do it.
Comes from, I'm going to adjust your bob's skirting. That's right, it's Dorkaholics.
So weirdly specific.
Yeah, that's what you get. if nothing else, I'm weirdly specific.
That's fair.
Dorkaholics asks, did Batman end up in the Middle Ages during his journey across time after Final Crisis?
Right. So, when in Final Crisis, Batman shoots Darkseid with a Radion bullet, while Darkseid fires his like Omega Sanction at him, and it sends Bruce Wayne back in time. He also loses his memory or something like that. And then the return of Bruce Wayne sort of story takes place in like 4 or 5 or 6 time periods.
Yeah.
Starting with like the Paleolithic day. Like Batman has a run-in with Vandal Savage.
Wow.
In like that sort of like those caveman days.
Oh, that's awesome.
However, I'm pretty sure most of the time periods are like within the last 400 years. Like there's a big gap between caveman Batman and then there's like Wild West, there's like Pirates Batman, there's like...
Remember all those toys? Remember when, like, especially at Toys R Us, they used to have like the huge line of like really detailed Batman toys?
Yeah.
They had like the pirate Batman and stuff. Those were fucking so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt those were Final Crisis tie-ins, but...
Wow.
but
still cool.
Yes, very cool. But I think most of the time periods that Bruce Wayne goes through, because some of them are also like early 20th century. I think they're all like relatively recent, except for caveman days. So I don't know if that means that he skipped the Middle Ages entirely or just we don't see it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he might have just skipped it.
How do you skip it though?
Well, yeah, Omega Sanction.
Oh, okay. Because Flashpoint.
Listen, Richard, if you're not going to take this seriously.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Master Wayne,
Yeah.
that you missed the Middle Ages.
Though he's pretty staunchly in his Middle Ages, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I, Sir Alfred Shillingsworth. I've made this suit of armor.
Also, how does he live? Is it because the thing that shot
I
him
went
makes
to
him...
go see the minstrel play, and your parents walked through the alley and stab.
So when he gets shot by that thing, does that make him like immortal? Is that how he can travel through?
No, it has some sort of like it's bending time and space or something around him, and he sort of has to like face himself in
multiple time frames
of like it's sort of a weird story, but he sort of has to fight his way through history to get back to the present.
Like what? Like when like Sam like is like in his head and he has to like fight himself to get out.
I'm just so tired of them not getting along.
I'll tell you, the last couple seasons have been great.
Been through so much, like just fucking get over it.
You know who kind of becomes the new Sam a bit is Castiel.
Oh, but I like Cass.
You'll still love him.
Will I though if he becomes a Sam?
No, he becomes Sam, and
because I objectively don't like Sam right now.
He becomes Sam in the fact.
I'm partway through season 9 for those keeping score.
Yeah, that's right. He becomes Sam in the way that like he's just like he's not constantly not getting along with the guys, even though they love each other.
Right.
So, oh god, man, season 13. The last 3 seasons have been incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm liking season 9 other than the fact that it's just doing that Arrow thing of like, we've learned this lesson. Stop not trusting each other.
I know.
We're over it.
I know. It's an unfortunate thing. How dare you associate that with Arrow, though?
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, short version, I actually don't think that Batman ends up
at least there's
the Dark Ages,
nothing that mentions
or
that.
we don't see it.
And they haven't mentioned it.
It's been a while since I've read that. I don't know if it implies that in the meantime he's been in other eras as well, or if you go directly from one to the next.
Do not pass go. Do not go directly.
There's definitely not, as part of that story, a section where you see that happen. Yeah,
for sure. All right. Moving on. Sometimes the national anthem plays and there's too much injustice, and so you have to Ryan put knee on the ground.
As soon as you said national anthem, I knew who it was.
Sometimes you must put knee.
You must put knee. God damn it.
Ryan asks, what was going on with Dr. Fate during that time? Are there any noteworthy wizards during that time in the DCU? Ooh, I mean, Merlin's around for sure.
Yeah, I mean, noteworthy wizards, tons. Yeah, Merlin, like the Merlin,
I brought my dog to work today, and he peed all over the second floor. I left him at the office to go to the store and came back. There's pee everywhere. That's a notable wizard. Just whizzing everywhere.
I'm gonna show myself out. Yeah. So the Merlin of Arthurian legend, and the sort of twist that Merlin in the actual myth, in that it's implied that he has some sort of not necessarily full demon, but like some sort of like mystical father, and that's why he has magic powers.
It's like a half demon.
He's a half something.
Yeah.
DC says he's a half demon.
Yeah.
DC makes his father a demon called Belial.
Not a full D, just like the half.
He's
D.
got half D.
Yeah.
He's got we'll call him a semi-chub.
Yeah.
And so Merlin, very, very notable wizard at this time. But we also get Morgane Le Fay.
Yeah.
Who is...
Does no one own the rights to like that story?
Well, some of these things, they take like the thing that is public domain and then change it enough so to be like, this could be our version. And
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So you get Morgane Le Fay, who is the sister of Madame Xanadu, who, at least pre-Flashpoint, was the sister of the Lady in the Lake.
Yeah.
So taking these things from Arthurian legend and then also tying them to these sort of like comic booky things. So there's all of them. Mordru is the immortal Lord of Chaos. It ends up being a Legion of Superheroes villain. So we know he makes it to the 31st century, but he's also alive way back then.
Wow.
He's around, very powerful wizard. And there are just mages and sorcerers. I mean, I don't know if the time, I can't think of like what the year would be, because I don't know if they ever address it, but possibly concurrently you have like Arian, the Lord of Atlantis. He's like a ancient Atlantean mage.
Saying he's an Aryan later?
I'm trying not to, actually. I'm doing my best to avoid it. But he's this ancient Atlantean mage. He's one of the Lords of Order. He exists. I don't know if that's supposed to be a couple hundred years before or after or whatever, but he's also olden times. So we know that Dr. Fate must be around, or the helmet at least must be around, because he's from 5,000 or so years ago. Because if you take the Black Adam thing, how long he's been gone, it was about 5,000 years. Teth Adam and Prince Khufu, like the original first life of Hawkman, and Nabu becomes the Lord of Order, becomes Dr. Fate. They are all meant to be contemporaries 5,000 years ago. So that helmet must be somewhere. Now, is there a Dr. Fate at that time? I went through my stuff and I did like a quick sort of scan online. I couldn't find a Dr. Fate story that showed like,
because I mean, it looks like he's from there.
What he was up to in Knights and Squires times. That doesn't mean he wasn't active, and that also doesn't mean that there isn't a story just because I didn't find it.
Yeah,
but there's also always the possibility that is a period where there is no Dr. Fate, where the helmet is lost, hidden, trapped, whatever.
It's unfortunate because it really would be totally fine in that era.
Because the helmet does get found in Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, that's how Kent Nelson comes into the possession of it. So was it there the whole time?
Makes sense, yeah.
Does it go away and then come back there?
That's true.
It's possible that there just is no Dr. Fate. But Nabu definitely exists. He's somewhere out there. He just might be stuck in the helmet. No, they won't.
No, they won't. It's the best.
That would have been the best version of the
On
Your Left thing.
I know.
All the ships show up. Just, we're going to die here alone. No, they won't.
Oh, so fucking good. Oh my God. Finally give justice.
Misa Bombat General.
Fuck. Could have really done it.
Yeah. We'll have to make our fan edit of Rise of Skywalker.
Just like in the background. I love that.
Yeah.
How long has this been going?
Or there's just one ship shows up, starts firing at like the big sort of first order ships, or the final order ships, and he goes, "My friend doesn't like you. I don't like you either."
Hell yeah!
Just cuts the ship's arm off.
It's like that's the fan service I can appreciate.
At the point we got to with that movie, they might as well have just done the silly shit,
right?
And just let us have fun,
right?
Yeah.
Know who you are. Come on.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Next.
Did we answer? Oh yeah, Merlin, Mordru, Morgana Le Fay. Lots of powerful wizards and mages and stuff at the time.
For sure. Yeah. Next question comes from Jahin Alam, who asks, do you think DC should do more with the medieval characters to put them on the same level of fantasy as Lord of the Rings?
Well,
See,
here's the thing with the Lord of the Rings thing. Is Lord of the Rings is rightfully iconic because it inspired what fantasy writing basically is today.
Yeah.
But even though I love it, it's dry as fuck. Like it's the opposite of what makes a good comic book.
But they're not saying trying to make them like Lord of the Rings. They just mean to put them on the same sort of level.
But I guess what I mean is like, I don't know how I don't think it's impossible.
You get the right movie.
I don't think it's impossible, but I think if we're talking about what is the scale of Lord of the Rings, we're talking about something that changes the world.
Yeah.
When you look at like how the Lord of the Rings is written, there's these ages, right? At the end of the first age, the world literally breaks. Like a whole part of the continent falls into the sea. At the end of the second age, Numenor sinks.
Hey, there's a podcast for that.
But you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Don't fucking put your peanut butter in my jug.
The trick with the DC thing is that it's also fitting into our history.
Yeah.
We're not in the prehistory thing, right?
Yeah. Well, alternate history.
I think that's part of the issue though, is that that sort of high fantasy thing about like breaking the world or the world reforming. You don't necessarily get to do that because you're trying to fit it into like while Charlemagne was over there, Vandal Savage was over here.
Yeah.
So you can there's a cap on what you can do to the world. It has to be something that could be relatively kept secret for
unless you did it on like an alternate, like
unless you do that, unless you do the Camelot 3000 thing where you take like some of the pieces and then but that's sci-fi, that's not fantasy.
Oh, God.
Or it's sort of a blend, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do that, or you have to say that there is a secret prehistory before Vandal Savage.
Yeah.
We're talking 100,000 years ago. These were the before times with like a Scartaris. I mean, Scartaris is sort of the thing. It's your land in the center of the earth where there's kind of dinosaurs, but there's also swords and wizards and stuff like that. I think Scartaris is your place for that because it is tied to DC. It's connected to the realm, but it's almost its own little dimension. So you could do these big, epic battles of good and evil, and you don't have to worry about like, oh, and also it's about that time, Black Plague, or like whatever, right? Like you don't have to be keeping track of real history at the same time.
Where was Scartaris?
Scartaris is at the center of the earth. So if we're going by what the Aquaman movie now implies, the seventh sea is Scartaris. It's that sort of like Journey to the Center of the Earth sort of thing where there are dinos and maybe more than just the medieval characters.
Yeah.
You could do lots of fun fantasy stories, but if you're talking about something that's maybe kind of cut loose from the hindrances of being stuck in the real world, I think maybe you have to do more on Scartaris. You got Deimos, he's like a wizard and a mage. That's pretty cool. You get Travis Morgan, who's like from our world, but then he's got a gun and he's got a sword and he rides a dinosaur and he's like, you get that cool shit. Like maybe it's Scartaris is the way to do that.
I feel like we should put out like a piece of merch that's like, it looks like a Trump hat and it says "Make Earth's core Scartaris again."
I mean, it's a funny joke, but I think I want to stay away from any merch that jokingly or otherwise looks like that.
I mean, you might get beat the fuck up at this point.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of scaring the MAGA folk away.
Yeah.
I don't
Remember that one time where I think we had one fan that was like that
Oh, I probably blocked.
when we looked at their Twitter account and we were
yeah.
like, "Oh no."
Yeah, that does.
And then we made a bunch of like episodes and then they didn't show up ever again.
Yeah, every once in a while. Yeah, we got to check ourselves, make sure we don't say anything that feels like the door is open.
We don't want Chappelle show this and joke too much so that people think that's how we feel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm constantly concerned about that.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
But I'm basically the world's greatest tightrope walker.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let's leave Twitter.
In breaking news, Cirque du Soleil files for bankruptcy.
No, it's that French guy. Remember the one who like walked between the
Yeah,
him. Is there before we leave, is there any other thoughts you have about like how you could make like a big sort of DC fantasy thing like as popular? Like would there be like a direction that you think would help sort of make it that sort of wildly popular
so that it would actually catch on?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I do think that the trick for DC,
like maybe something didn't get the attention it could have if they kept going with it, or
I think the trick for DC and the thing that they have done on the occasions where they forayed into this is you stick with the demon thing.
Yeah.
That's a piece that technically Lord of the Rings kind of has, because you've got the Maiar that fell, right? You have your Balrogs, you have your Saurons, you have your stuff like that.
Sure.
But I think you go with like the demon thing, the stuff with like Holy Grail, like you tie it to that sort of Merlin Arthurian kind of thing. I think that's what works well. That's why I actually kind of like that Demon Knights series, is because it's, I won't say that it's like the most linear or even the most interesting story, but like you get to watch a demon with a sword and someone has an eldritch blast sort of like magic thing happen. Like it's sort of what you want from that, which is in many ways the opposite of Lord of the Rings, which is a world full of magic. But the whole point of Lord of the Rings is that the magic is ending.
Yeah.
Elves are leaving. We're killing off the rest of these orcs and shit. The Ents lost their Ent wives. They're just becoming trees. The whole point of Lord of the Rings is that it's the end of magic. And I think what you do for DC is the opposite.
You go, magic's coming.
Or you like magicify stuff that we think we already know. You know, you take like the Norman invasion of Britain in 1066, but now let's put like fucking demons in there.
Hell yeah.
You know, like you take things that we know that are somewhat familiar and then you zhuzh them up with like this sort of like heaven and hell kind of battle, right?
Oh, yeah, it's when they start putting heaven and hell in things, it makes it so much better.
My wife came in the other day. She was like, "Is that Booger?"
Fucking how
I was watching Supernatural.
how incredible is Metatron, right?
Oh, I love him.
Like the perfect actor for that role
So
too.
good.
He's so good at being like both pathetic but also maniacal.
Every time I see him, I'm like, the stuff you've done. And
I
then
know.
He says something, you go like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe he's just
Maybe it's his
misunderstood.
time, yeah.
Suckers me in every time.
I know. It's
I'm a real Castiel of myself.
I mean, it's true. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What about you? What would you want it like if? Is that a thing that you have an interest in? Would you want to see like a sort of like sword and sorcery? I mean, the thing we're not talking about, because it's not strictly Middle Ages, but it's Gem World. That's your fucking fantasy realm.
I mean, yeah, that's
you have all of like the gem houses. They each give you
very
a power.
Game of Thrones,
you know, like House it's very Game of Thrones. House Turquoise, you get like the disguisey powers. House Citrine, you get knowledge powers. You know, like that's your sword and sorcery thing right there.
I think as long as for me, it's always, can you tell a story of someone who like either didn't know they had power or like suddenly have power?
Yeah.
And like, how do they learn to wield that? As long as you can tell that story, I love it. I mean, one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Merlin.
Yeah.
Like,
you do love that.
I fucking love it. What I don't like is going into a world where everybody's got a ton of power and there's just people using magic. It's the same thing why I have a hard time with sort of like the big action like comic book stuff where it's just a bunch of like punching. And for me, I'm like, it's just too much. Like there's no entry point for me. It's more like with me, it's why Harry Potter works so well, because it's the idea of it's like, oh, like what if like I could see myself in that position, right?
Right.
That's why I love Willow so much. I'm so stoked that they're bringing that back. I think that it's the story of like a small. That's why The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings works so well, right? Like it's about the small character having like great power
drawn into the bigger story.
Yeah, I think that's more interesting. So if there's a way to do that, I think it'd be really valuable. Like I think the demon stuff is cool as long as you, like, where's my entry point, right? Because the problem with demons is that it's like there's 2 steps away from like humanizing it. So where's your entry point, right?
Yeah.
So I think like the Dr. Fate thing's cool because
and maybe it is like the demon. It's Etrigan, right? You start with Jason Blood. I mean, certainly in the New 52, I think he was a squire.
Yeah, that works totally.
As opposed to being even a knight. And then Merlin binds him to this demon.
And someone wrestling with sort of like having being attached to that. I mean, you could make a hilarious like comedy like TV show out of that.
Sure.
Where he's like wrestling with that, but trying to like still be like a squire and...
No, Etrigan, we gotta finish these cupcakes for the bake sale. There's no...
No, we gotta take the...
God, oh form of man, but this is good icing.
The cakes keep coming down this conveyor belt.
Yeah,
that's for me. Yeah, that would be my entry point. But I mean, I've always been more of a sci-fi guy than a fantasy guy in a lot of cases. But you give me the right type of fantasy, and I'm there for it. But I definitely have a harder time with sort of your Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. I think Game of Thrones took me a little bit to get into. Once I got past the sort of fantasy stuff and got more into sort of like the interpersonal relationships, that's when I got in there.
Yeah.
But it's also like it's a lot of small characters getting the sort of big opportunities, and I think that's what sort of won me over with that. But it's the high fantasy stuff can be challenging when it's too high fantasy and it's just about like, hi, I'm this wizard and I have this power and I'm going to go against this wizard. And
well, I mean, and I mean, eventually DC gets to the point where they make all these like little connections but you also want to avoid the thing where it's like, I am like Jervald and son of Turvald, and my grandfather was Lurvald.
I mean, you love that
keeper
stuff.
of the, but I mean, I do love that stuff. But it doesn't mean I like reading it though. I like that it exists.
You like being able to get at information if you want it.
But like Lord of the Rings is a kind of a slog.
Yeah,
the Council of Elrond is the longest chapter in any book ever. It's like kind of like.
This isn't how you do magic. I will tell you how you do magic.
Because someone stands up and instead of just going like, and his name was Aragorn, little did they know that. But they go like, here's Aragorn, son of Arathorn, son of Eredon, leader of the Dunedain Rangers of the North. Follow all of it just gives it all to you. It's like, fuck, like it's like a narrative textbook, right? Like I love the world, but like it doesn't mean it's fun to read.
You love being able to like have all the information and then your head go, this was the story I read. That's cool, and I know all this information about it.
Yes.
But like the process of reading it isn't that.
Well, exactly, fun. And I think that's maybe the thing that always keeps these sort of separate is that high fantasy thing. I think we've set the precedent for high fantasy that it maybe leans dry.
Yeah,
leans to. Well, you need all this information.
Yeah.
Whereas comic books, by necessity, don't.
Because they've been going on so fucking long, you can go and read more books.
But also they're visual.
Yeah.
It's more about action. Yeah. It's more about, like, so they draw different sort of storytelling approaches.
Sure. Yeah. All right, let's leave Twitter. We're heading on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from, once and of course future guest, Tess Lanos.
Tess Lanos.
Oh, the most interesting.
Yeah, we got another one.
Yeah, I can't help it. Yeah, I fell right into that trap. Tess asks, oh my God, tell me everything. Fairies? Mermaids? Was Merlin in DCU comics? Any lady knights? So many questions.
Well, let's just do them in order.
Okay. Fairies?
Fairies do exist.
Actually, technically, tell her everything. But
Okay, well, let's start with everything.
Fairies.
So, fairies...
Fight the fairies, Sam! Fight the fairies!
Fucking EMH. It's a fucking leprechaun. Fairies definitely exist.
That was also an improvised line, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know so much.
I just you wait.
The sort of the Fey realms are part of what you would call like the sphere of the gods in Morrison's map. I think they would fall under Skyland or Dream. Probably more like they would be part of Dream.
Okay.
That sort of part of the sphere of the gods. We know specifically that fairies exist from an issue or a couple of issues of Sandman from that series where it takes place. We're talking about the end of the Middle Ages here. We're getting into the Renaissance, but it takes place basically in Shakespeare's time, where you meet the actual Oberon and Titania, the king and queen of the fairies, and then he is inspired to write the play Midsummer Night's Dream based on the encounter with Oberon.
I always like when they do that. Like,
well, and in general, DC is not the only thing to do this. A lot of things go with the idea that, you know, over time we lose our connection to the magical worlds. That there was a time where maybe people crossed through the veil more freely, or we just know they existed, or stuff like that, and then we either lose the belief or they shut us out or whatever. Something happens and we drift apart. And certainly the thing that's kind of fun about this sort of dark age medieval times sort of thing is that you're in an era where if a demon shows up, the villagers don't go like, demons are real. They go, a demon is here. Like, they know there are dragons, there are demons, there are definitely fairies.
Yeah.
And we know that those realms exist. We've encountered the like Irish, like the Celtic pantheon of gods before. We've encountered literal, like actual fairies. So yes, they definitely exist, and they would have existed at that time. 100%.
Mermaids.
There are mer people. So in pre sort of Flashpoint continuity, they were from a different Atlantean city so the main Atlantean city is called Poseidonis.
Yeah.
The other city was called Tritonus. And Tritonus, those people, as opposed to being more humanoid, were more like mer people.
Is this part of the Seven Seas thing?
Well, this was before that was really an idea. But now in the Seven Seas, we're talking about the Fisherman King.
Yes.
Fisherman Kingdom is where we get these sort of mer people, and they're sort of philosophers and stuff like that. But short version, mer people definitely exist, and actually, there's a whole sort of class of Atlanteans that are sort of human and like sea creature hybrids. Some are, you know, you get your king sharks, but you also get there's one called Crush, who's like mostly like a crab person.
It's just a little crush.
You know, we see that with the Brine Kingdom, even in that Aquaman movie, that they're all kind of like crustacean-y people and stuff.
Crab people, crab people. Walk like crab, talk like people.
But yeah, so short version, mermaids do exist in DC.
We talked a little bit about this already, but actually probably extent. But Merlin.
Merlin absolutely exists. He is the son of the demon Belial. I don't know if it's still canon, but for a while, I think they set up that Belial may have been the son of Trigon. That basically Merlin is technically related to Raven.
That's
because
so Raven.
It was pretty Raven.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know if it was so Raven. It was like reasonably Raven.
Understandably Raven.
Yeah, it was like expectantly Raven.
Yeah. No one's surprised that that's Raven.
Yeah, Lee Raven. But at any rate, he does have sort of demon ancestry. Extremely powerful wizard. So powerful that in that other comic that we read, in the modern day when they found his bones were like the key to breaking the Spectre's spell.
I cannot do it, Captain.
I'm giving her all she's got. So yeah, Merlin, insanely powerful wizard. Maybe one of the most powerful of all.
Do we see it a lot outside of sort of medieval time periods? Like,
sometimes you get maybe the ghost of Merlin or something like that that's connected to like a character like Shining Knight or Jason Blood or something like that. And again, anytime you get a sorcerer or wizard that powerful, they're never really dead. You know, they've hidden part of their spirit in like a arcane object, or they are able to communicate from like beyond the grave, or they're traveling through time, or. So they're never really gone. Merlin, in many cases, has been shown to be relatively definitively dead, or at the very least, maybe moved to Avalon to sort of an afterlife outside of time or something like that.
And in the Merlin TV show, they make him kind of immortal. So like at the very last sort of scene of the entire TV series is him in like modern times.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Merlin in actual myth, you know, they developed that thing eventually where he like ages backwards, which wasn't in all the original stuff, but that thing where he perceives time differently and stuff like that too.
Nice. Any lady knights?
Yes and no.
Oh.
Female warriors, aplenty. Including, so let's talk about that Demon Knights series in the New 52.
Yeah. Demon Knights.
There's an Amazon.
Demon Hills.
One of them is an Amazon who has left the island.
Oh.
But back in those days. So
express shipping.
Pre-Diana. Her name is Exoritos.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she is an Amazon.
She's really Amazon's prime. She's a prime Amazon.
Boo. Boo on you, sir. The reason that I said kind of is that
no official actual like knights.
Well, there's a character called Shining Knight who's a Golden Age character, and the original Golden Age version, the name that he goes by in the modern days is Justin Arthur. But basically, he was this like knight with a magic sort of suit of armor, and he rode this like Pegasus or whatever, and then he gets frozen in ice, Captain America style, and comes into the modern age. Grant Morrison in the 2000s reinvented the character with a bit of a twist. So this is a character called Sir Yistin, and Sir Yistin, or Ustin, I guess is how it's pronounced. And Sir Ustin was really a woman named Ustina who then sort of like disguised themselves as a man to fight. And so that was that Shining Knight. And then the New 52 version did an even more kind of interesting thing, which is that Sir Ustin, Merlin finds Sir Ustin and sees that they have two spirits inside them. They like literally two spirits.
No, they're not, but they're not two-spirited.
Well, not in the appropriate First Nations way, but that they literally have the soul of a man and the soul of a woman.
They're two-souled.
Yeah. Essentially, so this most recent version, Merlin makes them drink from the Holy Grail, so they have a level of immortality and things like that. Magic armor, sword, Pegasus named Vanguard. Dope name for Pegasus.
Good name for a car, especially if you have a van.
Yeah. I hate being the Vanguard. I'm always worried the cops are going to show up. But this Sir Ustin, oftentimes in the Demon Knights book, people refer to them as a lady, and they say, I'm not. One of our listeners corrected me the last time I talked about this because I was dancing around the word a bit, but essentially this Sir Ustin is like an intersex character. Or a version of that, because they're not the First Nations two-spirited thing. Yeah. It's a kind of its own thing. But that's the current Sir Ustin, is a character that has the soul of a man and the soul of a woman inside them, is an actual knighted knight with armor, sword, steed, all of the accoutrement of knighthood. I think that's the closest you get to an official lady knight.
Yeah.
But female warriors, tons of them. Amazons and mages like Madame Xanadu
Hell yeah.
and stuff like that. There's lots of badass women, not necessarily badass lady knights.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from the real Josh Gill.
Yeah, Gil.
Oh, sexy Gill.
Yeah.
Post thirst traps all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Who asks, what happens?
Get medieval on Josh Gill.
Gonna lance him.
Oh, no. A lot.
Yeah. Gonna lance him so much my arm's strong.
Ooh.
I'm trying to be a dad. I'm getting into the mindset.
If you steal his foreskin, you'd be Robin Hood.
Oh, you want it. You want it all.
Yes.
Josh asks, what happens if Morgaine's mask come off?
Right. So Morgane Le Fay, very powerful sorceress.
Yep.
And sort of tied to like the actual Arthurian legend. She is Arthur Pendragon's half brother. Like I said, she's the sister to Madame Xanadu, and at one time also the Lady in the Lake.
Yeah.
Incredibly powerful, but she, in fighting Merlin, I think she gets sort of kind of cursed. She's immortal, but she like loses her beauty and stuff like that. So she starts wearing this like kind of gold armor with a face mask, and that sort of, it's a pretty dope look, actually.
Nice.
I don't think that it does anything like I shouldn't say this. I'm pretty sure it doesn't do anything overly magical to her. Like if you were to take the mask off, I don't think she evaporates or like melts like the Wicked Witch or something like that.
Would she become smoking?
But I don't think it's far-fetched to say that her armor is enchanted.
Yeah.
And that it's probably doing something regarding her immortality. I'm pretty sure she could live without it, but I think this is like the thing that maybe keeps her sort of not necessarily young, but active, able, like
young at heart,
in full control. Young at heart, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
yeah, like Diet Pepsi.
Yeah,
forever young.
Somebody really needs to stop her
because
she's smoking. She's got the mask on.
Nice.
But
yeah, I mean, this is the Morgane Le Fay.
Also, it makes her prone to coronavirus.
Oh no!
I can't believe you would ask it.
Wait, sorry, prone to?
Makes
wearing the mask makes her more susceptible.
Taking it off.
Oh, taking it off. Yes,
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I thought we were revealing some sort of like mask truther thing about you.
Yeah, I think the masks actually created coronavirus.
I think the masks are made of coronavirus.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. They trap the coronavirus behind you, and then all you could do is get sick.
Yeah, 5G paid for the masks. Yeah, Morgane Le Fay is the mother of Mordred, who is like the evil son that she has with Arthur. Like all of these sort of things where we're sort of tying into the actual Arthurian legend and then also doing our own little DC thing with it. But yeah, she's got a dope costume. It's a really cool looking like gold mask and stuff. Like she's in a couple of episodes of the Justice League cartoon.
Oh, really?
She's a pretty cool looking villain. It really translates well, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from ABC.
Brooks.
It's easy as 1, 2, 3.
Brooks.
It's easy as do, re, mi.
Brooks.
1, 2, 3.
Brooks.
Maybe ABC Brooks. Yeah.
Brooks.
Brooks, 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 Brooks. I think we like nailed the harmonies on that one. I was really proud of us.
Let's take this on the road.
Yeah.
It don't matter if you're Brooks or
Oh,
Brooks.
no, that's...
ABC Brooks.
It gets more...
ABC Brooks.
After watching Leaving Neverland, I feel like anything past Jackson 5, I don't feel comfortable.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay. That's fair, yeah. I'm starting with the Brooks in the Brooks.
Not the ABC in the Brooks.
Listen, I don't write the songs.
That's right. You're just the talent.
I'm the talent, baby.
ABC Brooks asks 2 questions.
Okay.
Oh, well, aren't we getting
a little liberal with it?
Jeez, wow. Taking some fucking liberties here. First, is Demon Knights from the New 52 the best medieval story from DC, or is there something better? 2, how sexy would the real Josh Gill be as a knight? I mean, he was pretty good last night.
Jesus Christ. I was gonna say you get him in like that sort of like Red Sonja chainmail kind of thing.
Oh. No, I always picture him in
Josh.
like a slave lay outfit.
Yeah, that's basically the Red Sonja.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Then we're on the same
Don't worry,
page.
we're talking the same
Yeah,
language.
oh, thank God. Clearly someone's been on my DeviantArt page.
Yeah, I'm the subscriber.
Oh, yeah. You must be fill me to the gills.
Yeah, it's joshhub.deviantart.com.
He's such a sweet man. And he has no idea how to react to this.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
So,
So,
what was the first question?
Demon
I'm just thinking
Knights.
about Josh now.
Is it the best medieval story?
Right. I don't know that it's the best story. I don't know that Demon Knights is overly successful as like an actual plot.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a lot of fun things in it. So Demon Knights basically it's set during this time, and it's this unlikely team of people that come together that include Vandal Savage, Madame Xanadu, Etrigan the Demon, this guy called Algeber, who is he doesn't have powers, but he is like
It sounds like one of my uncles that I've never met.
But he's like technologically savvy. He's like an architect and an inventor and stuff. He's sort of ahead of his time that way. It's got that Exoritos, that Amazon is on that team. It's a neat team. Oh, Horsewoman is on that team. She sort of taps into the red, but only regarding horses. She can communicate with / control horses, but she's a paraplegic, so she binds herself to a horse.
Like a centaur?
No. Like she sort of magically can bind herself to a horse.
Not like with rope.
But it means that she
because I was just picturing like the horse's head's kind of sideways, and she's like roped, tied to the front of a ship.
It's also that it's paraplegic, not quadriplegic.
Oh,
it just means
my way's more fun.
Sure.
Fine, you can ride the horse.
She's on that team as well.
Okay.
I think it's a fun setup. I love the idea of exploring this era. And then you got Morgane Le Fay and Mordru on sort of like the bad side of it. It's really, really a cool setup. I don't know that the story is that interesting.
Yeah. So what do you consider the best medieval story from DC?
I think you got to look at some... I think you got to look at some like old Shining Knight or like original Etrigan stories.
Yeah.
The stuff we're really roping Merlin in a meaningful way. Even more so than some Madame Xanadu stuff that like kind of flashes back. I feel like those early like Kirby, the demon like issues, I think like that's some cool stuff.
Really?
But of course you're not exclusively in that era. You're like seeing bits and then you're like, and here we are now. You're doing that sort of thing. You do get to see a bit of it in some Madame Xanadu stories, of course. I think the problem is that there's not a ton of books that just live in that era. Like, I think that's the other problem is like, we visit that time period. We flash back to that time period. We spend an arc there, or the Justice League gets transported there for a bit or whatever. But I don't necessarily know that we spend enough time to really have like a wealth of things. So, I mean, I guess by virtue of that, Demon Knights has a step ahead because it's actually, its purpose is to be there. It's not to set up something else or to just dip in and leave again. But maybe then what I'm saying is I don't know that we've gotten the good, like the best Middle Ages stuff yet. I feel like we're building we've proven different pieces of it work really well.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we've gotten like a cool sustained thing of it.
Like there's no like trade that like
not in a way that
Yeah.
like wouldn't just be a collection of random issues,
Yeah,
right?
for
And I
sure.
think that's the piece.
we need a decent arc.
Yeah, like just a full book.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, we need medieval stuff to become popular again, and maybe then DC will feel inclined to do so.
Yeah, it's so interesting because every time you try and come up with that idea, it's all like, how do we like make it sexy or like modernize it or something like that? Then you run the risk of it just becoming sci-fi. Like
Well,
now it's Booster Gold in the past, or Camelot 3000, which was a cool story, but it's doing something different. Like
or Black Knight.
Black Knight, a movie I've inexplicably seen too many times.
Kind of great. Or Kid and King Arthur's Court. So good.
Yeah, that's all right.
Let's not start this. I think you just need. I think you need like fantasy and like medieval sort of time stuff to get back into the zeitgeist. Which I mean, it's all cyclical. It'll come back at some point, and then DC will be inclined to sort of develop a story. I think.
Yeah. Do you know what I kind of would want to see in the Middle Ages thing? Is like in the way that we've talked about, like. Dr. Fate is somewhere, or the helmet at least is somewhere.
Yeah.
It definitely exists at that time. It's
It'd be an easy way to tie into that.
but we're like, who was the Swamp Thing of the
Yeah.
year 700?
Yeah.
Like, what sort of like elder, like
Tree or
like
something.
this big sort of tree thing, like marches
fucking
out of like a
awesome.
British forest or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like there's. If we need more like accessible quote unquote windows into these things, so we're not just dumping characters people aren't familiar with on them.
Yeah.
But like maybe you need a version of Demon Knights that you can still bring in those characters that are established for that time, but you can also bring in some of these things that are maybe a bit more like contemporary comics anchors, like a Dr. Fate, like a Swamp Thing, like a Phantom Stranger or something like that, just to help hold it in place a little. Yeah.
All right. Let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
At least to us. First question comes from Dante's Fire.
Oh. Well, hot damn.
I know. Literally. Hot damn.
Ooh.
Oh, you're so bad.
Call the police and the fireman. Too hot. Hot damn. Make a dragon want a retirement. I think that's one of my favorite lines in any song. Make a dragon want a retirement. Because he's too hot.
I mean, that's amazing.
Sort of a good line.
Oh,
Fits with the theme. Weirdly.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. All right. Dante's Fire says, I need to be that nerdy guy. So, actually, according to history books, the medieval period is considered to have started with the fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD. Sir Ustin of Prime Earth, according to DC Database, is from thousands of years ago. So if we're conservative and plural, then the knight existed at least 2,000 years ago. So 500 years before could have gone medieval. And Sir Ustina of New Earth is from around 8,000 BC. So neither of these knights can actually be officially considered medieval. Well, maybe Sir Ustin is immortal and probably held some knight jobs. Kate, Knight, John. During the medieval times. So is there another term in the DCU for being medieval before the medieval time period?
Right. So,
good God, that was a lot.
So, a couple of those versions of Shining Knight, the Sir Ustina and Sir Ustin, it's true. The comic references like thousands of years have passed, or 8,000 years ago, which puts them before like Prince Khufu and Black Adam and stuff like that. Almost into that thing where I was talking about where you need like a prehistory, or maybe like Camelot, Avalon, all that stuff is like outside of time.
Oh,
or
okay.
I don't know that any of them have bothered to go to the point of like actually figuring out like what did we mean when we said 8,000 years, or like just is it dog years, or like like no one is. I don't know that anyone's ever bothered to hash out the problem that makes.
Yeah.
Because Dante's Fire is right. generally the Dark Age is sort of starts with the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476. The Eastern Roman Empire, aka the Byzantine Empire, keeps going into the 1400s, like almost within a lifetime of Shakespeare. And,
Hot damn.
Centered in Constantinople, of course.
Is it Istanbul?
Modern day Istanbul, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was Constantinople.
Oh, okay. It's nobody's problem but the Turks.
Oh no. I've also, to add to my list of weird nerdy things, I'm a Roman history buff.
Of fucking course you are. Jesus Christ.
But their point is correct. Now, what we're talking about here, even people that we've mentioned, like Vandal Savage, was around before this.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they weren't also there for the medieval stuff. But yes, I mean, if you're talking about like the genesis point of being a knight, there's definitely some confusion with the Sir Uston stuff and the timeline. But we do know that Sir Uston also actually existed right around the actual, what we consider medieval time.
Okay.
So at the very least, there's a period of time in which they were properly medieval, even if they're from something either like slightly outside of time or a prehistory or something like that. There's at least a moment there where they count as medieval.
Fair.
But it's true. I mean, it's a pretty glaring thing where they're just like, oh, thousands of years ago, and no one was like, actually, King Arthur's meant to be in like the year like 560. Like, like no one like caught up with them or whatever, which is kind of funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
So is there a term for the sort of Arthurian period? Like,
well, I mean, because what we're describing is what would you call this era if it didn't happen at that time?
Yeah.
And so, no, there's not a word for that.
No. But is there a word for...
I mean, we're very cavalierly saying medieval.
Yeah.
Like, Middle Ages, Dark Age, medieval. Medieval, I think, is now the word that we, at least colloquially, even if it's not technically correct.
Yeah.
It's what we ascribe to that sort of like chivalry, castles, drawbridges. Like, when you think of like all of those kind of pieces, I think we tend to just say medieval.
Yeah.
Even though it's not necessarily correct. But that's maybe the closest thing we have to a term that just means what is this type of thing, no matter when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. All right, let's go to the last question. Comes from Yellow Lantern Adam.
All right.
Who asks...
I'm afraid.
Well, you should be. You're weak.
I know.
Hi, Doc. Not super familiar with DC's medieval period. Are there any good Spectre and Dr. Fate stories? So we talked a bit about Dr. Fate not really around.
Yeah, the Spectre one too, like offhand, I couldn't find anything of mine or anything that just sprang up.
Yeah.
It's possible that in a Spectre series or whatever, it mentions like, oh, and back in those days, this is what I was up to. But it's certainly nothing major or concrete that stands out. And again, maybe that's part of the issue, is that we've sort of like segregated these eras a little bit. I mean, that word is still appropriate, even though it's...
Yeah, they're separate now, but equal.
Fuck it. The Legion of Superheroes works better when you have a Superboy there.
Yeah.
Someone from the present goes to the future.
Yeah. So it's your connection, right?
It could be the same thing with but in reverse with the Middle Ages thing, where it's like, we need Madame Xanadu is a little too fringy, even though she's a major character. She's a little too fringy. We need a Dr. Fate, a Spectre, a Swamp Thing. I mean, Etrigan is the closest we've got, I think, because he's maybe the most popular character that is also from back then.
Yeah.
But even that is a little tough. But I think you need those kind of anchor points. And as far as I can tell, there's not anything like major that involves Dr. Fate, Spectre, Phantom Stranger, those sort of like big heavy hitters in the magic world. Yeah. We don't meet like a like a Jacob Zatara, or like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't meet like an ancestor of someone that way, or like, oh, my name, I'm Reginald Constantine, or like none of that is back then. So maybe it's just a little too disconnected or something.
Fair.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. All right. Well, that is the end of the question, which means it's on to our favorite game.
I love this game.
Can you guess the name of the character based on how someone who doesn't read comic books described that character to us?
My approach has been to second guess myself all the time.
I know.
Today, I'm going to say a bunch of wrong answers because I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm just
Right.
going to say things and we're going to see what happens.
I mean, that sounds way more confident than you are as a person, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, well, quick, tell me the clues before I change my mind.
Yeah, okay.
Before I second guess this course of action.
So if you haven't listened to this before, if you know we've been doing this for hundreds of fucking.
I mean, basically the whole time.
Yeah. I send a photo of a character to my wife, and she sends me clues back.
Sorry.
My wife.
Thank you.
So clue number 1.
All right.
Very simply, just needs a manicure.
Right. So we're talking about claws. I suspect because we're talking about the Middle Ages, you went for like a medieval-y character. I'm just going to go right out there. I'm just going to say Etrigan.
You're correct.
Yes.
I'll give you the rest of the clues for fun.
Please do. I would love to hear them.
Number 2 has weird priorities since they can afford a cape but not real footwear.
It's true. Etrigan has no need for shoes.
No. Number 3 likes to work out.
Oh, buff as hell.
Yeah. And finally,
As hell.
yeah. Oh my. Oh, there you go. Number 4 and final clue: swamp vampire demon suffering from jaundice who can expect some serious arch support issues as they age.
I mean, the jaundice thing, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Look at
Yeah.
that. Clue fucking 1. I gotta stop making it the same as the theme. You're catching on now. I gotta change
Yeah.
up my
Who's
game.
your zaddy?
Wow, you've gotten way too confident.
Yeah. Tell me I'm your zaddy.
Oh my god, this is not the doctor I like.
Yeah. I'm unstoppable.
Oh no, oh no. Quick, someone bring him down to size.
I'm just getting a text from my wife.
It's hard to bring him down to a size when he's already that small.
Oh, I was going to say because I'm ballooning constantly.
All right. Well, we would love to hear from you residents. Maybe you can send a question for next week's episode.
Yeah, next week's episode is a fun one. We're talking about like key issues, like important moments. So like key...
Oh, I thought you were talking like Black Lives Matter and like
Well, yeah, maybe I kind of think of a different way to phrase that theme. But we're talking
important issues of the day.
Important-
There we go.
about important comic book issues.
Oh, okay.
So,
So
like-
like how not enough female representation and
No, even less important than that. I'm talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths number 8, where Barry dies.
oh,
I'm just talking about
okay. That's
important issues in comics,
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, that's more valid.
like
I think.
issues of comics.
Yeah,
that are
I mean,
important.
yeah. Who cares about that other stuff?
I really didn't think this through.
There he goes. Now he's back to size.
Yeah, we're talking about what you might consider those like collector issues, important milestones.
Yes.
That's what we're doing next week. So you can send your questions about any of those events or moments or issues or anything like that.
The well's really running dry. It's this week's theme. What do you like? I don't know.
Well, no, we did one of these with we did like a first appearance this episode, and it was
Yeah.
kind of fun. And I was like, we haven't done something like that in a while. So
Yeah, sure.
you know, just like you with your braid on shit. I'm trying to keep it fresh.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's genius every single time I've come together with that idea. Yeah.
Of course, I'm never tired of it.
I'm glad. So you can reach out to us through our various social media platforms, such as our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Twitter,
At Dr. DC.
Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
email.
DrDCPodcast@gmail.com.
Of course, you can come to our subreddit.
r/Dr_DC.
And always we are taking calls from the doc phone.
208-917-3238.
That's 208 917-3238.
That's DCEU if you're nasty.
If you're nasty.
Because I'm zaddy.
No, you're not. Get back down to
Oh, I'm
side.
sorry. I'm sorry.
And of course, go to our website.
DrDCPodcast.com or .ca.
That's www.
Okay, all right.
http // and we're always taking reviews.
Go to Bing.
Yeah.
Type in Google. Click the first link. Type in Dr. DC Podcast.
Go to your terminal. always taking 5-star reviews. We're heading towards 90. 10 after that, we'll get to 100.
At 100, we do the Lord of the Rings miniseries.
Less important.
It's important to me.
And probably,
And-
I would say soon after.
And I would say...
There's a good chance
I would say there's a strong probability that before we hit 200 reviews, we also start our Supernatural rewatch podcast.
I mean, there's a strong possibility that before we hit 100 reviews, we're going to start.
I will admit I'm also pretty antsy, but just do it anyway.
I got all this unused information in my head.
Yeah,
I need to get it out.
I know. I want to look into the lore.
I've been watching so many
I
interviews.
thought of a name for that segment I pitched.
Oh, really?
Which is what does the lore say?
Oh, yeah, I like that. What does the law say?
That's also what I was thinking.
ding, ding.
See, you and I are meant to be together.
One way or another.
Yeah.
One way or another.
I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you.
And if you can't wait till we get to those to the 100 review mark, you want more content from us. First of all, make sure you still get those reviews in because we need them. But and we're not that far from it. But if you want more content right now,
This is good.
for $5 a
Keep this
month,
going.
all you have to do is go to our Patreon, give us $5, and you get a whole extra episode every single week.
That's right. 4 full-length extra episodes every month. That's
Normal length
just normal
episode.
length episodes. You could hold that episode.
Someone say that they might be slightly shorter than our normal episodes.
you
I would say they're normal.
You could basically take that episode and hold it up next to a burger and take a picture of it and send it to someone. It's fine.
Don't do it next to a banana.
Or a slider.
But I would say that. Look, are they always the exact same length? It doesn't matter. It's the motion of the podcast,
yeah,
baby.
some of the episodes are weirdly curved.
Yeah.
But for only $2 more a month, $7 a month, you get those 4 bonus episodes.
They're not that long.
still, of
Surprisingly
course.
thick, though.
You also get a video episode every week, prescribed reading, where I talk about something that I am currently reading. You get to help vote on episode themes. You get a merch discount, all sorts of fun stuff. And being a patron on Patreon helps us do cool stuff for you guys, try new things, get adventurous, try new things.
Oh, yeah.
Anything.
We're going to be together forever.
Anything for your money.
Literally
Yeah.
anything for your money.
Yeah.
So that's patreon.com/
Dr. DC.
That's right. That's it for this week.
Adios.
Ciao,
They
ciao.
always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.